Alright, just sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Podcast. We are coming to you on today, Wednesday, June the 14th, 2023. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none of them, Mr. RadioPete and Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
How are you two gentlemen on this fine June evening?
Well, I'm great. I'm great because I can now finally do this. Fuck you, Kendrick Perkins. Fuck you, Mark Jackson. Fuck you, Stephen A. Smith. Fuck you, ESPN. Fuck you, the goddamn refs. Fuck you, Jeff Van Gundy. Fuck everyone. The Denver Nuggets are the fucking world champions, and you can shove it up your ass. There you go.
There you go. All right. Well, I wore this in honor of the victory, even though I wore it a couple weeks ago on the show. Had to do it again. For the Nuggets, for the Joker, and for you, Harry. Had to do it for you. So there you go.
I just think it's great the Nuggets inspire that sort of joy in their fans.
There you go.
Well, you wouldn't know what it's like. Yeah.
I honestly.
And
I'm really happy for them, and I'm happy for you.
Yes, even though you think they're boring for whatever reason,
I don't even want to know what that is. No, listen. We talked about
this is from a man who finds joy in pickleball.
Oh, come on! We all find joy in pickleball.
No, if you ever watched it, you wouldn't. But yeah,
really, this does not bring you joy.
All right, for a brief moment.
All right.
No, honestly, pickleball is not that exciting to watch.
No,
it's still more exciting than tech ball.
All right.
But It's not I just can't imagine like groups of fans all getting pumped up.
And I don't know what it's called, but I saw it the other day, and maybe we've mentioned it before. I don't think we did, but it's pickleball on ice with ice skates.
Oh,
is that like Reuniti on ice?
I guess that's nice.
That's nice. Pickleball on ice. That's nice.
Pickleball on ice. Pickleball on ice with ice skates.
Yeah, imagine how loud that is. Pickleball on ice.
I saw it the other day. I'm like, holy shit. What the hell is this? So next it's going to be barefoot on lava rocks as you play.
Yeah, burning coals.
All right.
Lava ball.
Exactly. All right. Well, we got the background screen up. The Nuggets are the world champs. Harry, take it away. They're your Nuggets. Start us off with with some basketball discussion.
Well, look, I mean, this is a team that I think played great team basketball throughout the playoffs. And people can make excuses, blah, 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 blah. No. Okay. They beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. They beat very handily the Build-A-Bear, supposedly unbeatable Phoenix Suns. They swept the Los Angeles Lakers. And they beat a team that all of a sudden now wasn't supposed to be in the NBA Finals, even though a week before the finals started, they were the best team. Look, they beat a Miami Heat team, okay, which went to the finals 2 years ago, okay, and beat Milwaukee and Boston on their way to the finals. So there's no asterisk next to this.
They beat the Knicks too. Don't leave out the Knicks. They beat the Knicks too.
Yeah, they beat the Knicks. They should have beat the Knicks.
I know.
Look, we have seen dynasty-based teams for the last number of years. Okay, other than the Dallas Mavericks, with the teams are always from California or we've had the same NBA champions forever. Okay, this is the first time, that we've seen a small market team play as a team and win like this since the San Antonio Spurs. Okay, It's that simple. This was a team that was built through the draft. They piecemealed their way to depth and role players. And they're the kind of team where if one of their two stars, typically Murray, does not show up, other guys can pick up the pace. Their number 3 option was pretty miserable until the last game in the series. And they were still able to win the 16 games that they needed to win. 16-4, by the way, through the playoffs. And look, and the last game they won but with defense. They held Miami under 95 points in every one of those wins. So you could say what you want, okay? And people will, because for whatever reason, they do not want to like this team. But all of the Jokic can't play defense and this and that, no. They clamped down this team. They won it with defense. That's what they won it with in that last game. They didn't outshoot them by 3-pointers. They won it with fundamentals and defense. And yes, I think we finally have to admit now, people are coming out of the woodwork to admit that maybe Jokic is deserving now, finally, of what he actually is. And that is, I'm not even going to say he's the best player in basketball, but he's certainly in the conversation. And he's certainly able to lead his team to an NBA championship in a manner that I don't know if anybody's put up these kind of numbers this consistently, never by a center, maybe Jordan, maybe Kobe, but nobody has put up this, has impacted the game like this in a long, long time. So doubters be gone. I know we're going to go transition right into talking about where Chris Paul is going to go and what LeBron is doing. But look, I don't think people understand this because, you two guys have grown up in the New York metro area. It's a big sports town. Whether your team wins or not, there's the opportunities for these kind of championships are always there. Okay. The Nuggets have lived in the shadow of the Denver Broncos for years. They now also live in the shadow a little bit of the Colorado Avalanche. But let me tell you something. There was a outpouring of support for this team that was pent up for over 47 years. Mm-hmm. And whether the ratings or anybody else wanted to do it, look, they're the champs, and you can't take that away from them. And there's no controversy. There's no this, that, or the other thing. They blew through these playoffs in about as clean a manner as you possibly can. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do to keep up with the other teams that are going to obviously make moves in the postseason. But I do feel like they've got a window of another 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 at the most, or maybe they could squeak out another championship. But if they can, it's going to put Jokic in a position where people are going to have to really think long and hard about where he sits in the history of this game.
Right. I agree with you. They, they beat on average, percentages through every stat throughout the entire series. They beat Miami handily, except for one stat. And
free throws granted by the referees even after review.
Free throw percentages granted by the referees even after reviews. Yes, that was it.
Yes.
So, right. Free throw percentages.
Fan base? Was it fan base?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to that they lost in that. Not that they deserve to, but
I don't know about that. I think there was a lot of people rooting for them. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you root for this team? What is there not? I don't understand what there's not to like about this team. You're watching a guy who is as a combination of Magic Johnson and Bill Walton in his prime. Okay,
Harry, I'm not going to disagree with you on any of that.
I know, but what I'm saying is they're not boring. They're actually a very exciting.
They are boring.
No, they're not. What
yeah,
would you rather watch Boston chuck up 3-pointers or Embiid and Harden turn the ball over at the end of the game? I mean, what team is more exciting? Maybe the Lakers, just because you never know what Anthony Davis is going to get in a wheelchair because he bruised his toe.
Now that would be interesting.
Yeah,
That would be if he played it from the wheelchair. That would be interesting.
but they don't play they're up and down the court. They're the closest thing. Okay, they're not like the teams that just slowed it down and drove the ball into the ground. They have great ball movement, and when they're playing their best basketball, there's no better passing team that I've seen since the Lakers in the 80s. So I don't know how you could say they're boring.
They are boring from a media perspective.
There you go.
That's
they're boring because they're not controversial.
Because they're not controversial, and this is not. Listen,
I understand. So that's kind of a compliment. That's a compliment.
It should be, but it's the reason. And I think you're right. I think there were a lot of people who said, "Hey, first time championship, Joker's incredible. He is the best player on the planet." There's no question in my mind about that. But the media for years now, for years, not just a couple of years, has fed the general public with controversy, right? It's not about the story. It's not about getting it right. It's about being first. It's about clicks.
Yeah.
It's about views. It's about
controversial takes.
It's about the hot take. And, right. And so from that perspective, what they want to talk about, how they get the media gets their audience, the Nuggets are boring as fuck because nobody gets in trouble. Nobody gets pictures taken with a gun. I mean, just think back. What were the major, anything controversial? And again, I'm not saying any of this is right or fair.
It's not fair at all. It's not right at all. But
no. But what were the major controversies with the Nuggets?
Isn't that more of an indictment on the media?
Yes.
Even broad.
It absolutely is.
Look,
it is, but
it's almost like everybody was reluctant to say, yeah, they're good. Yeah.
Well, it's like everybody was reluctant to say it because it's true, and they just and because there's nothing else to talk about other than the fact of their quality of play and the fact that they're good.
But
there was nothing else to say other than that. So,
yeah,
these guys should be held up as the model for how an NBA franchise should be run, how players should behave, and how teams should play because of everything that you said. But that is not, unfortunately, what the media wants right now. And to be honest, it's not what the NBA wants either. Yeah. And that's
and everybody was forced to eat a little crow because they all bought into this media hype of trying to deny Jokic a third MVP in a row and to try and diminish what he was doing. And they succeeded in that from a marketing standpoint, from a messaging standpoint. Yep. Look, this guy was chosen last by his peers in the All-Star game. So there's something there. There's something there. Yeah. I know what it is, but I'm not going to say what it is because I think it's obvious. And look, because he has a crew cut. Because he has RadioPete's haircut.
Yeah, there you go. That's why.
That's my jersey's wearing the jersey. I got the haircut. Right. Yeah, listen. It's just not a compelling story for them to tell, or as compelling as in this case, the Heat, right? And coming back and Jimmy Butler, and how are they going to get there? And they just weren't as good, and they're too small. And the Nuggets are just too good, and they're set up for a couple of years to come, right?
Yeah, they're set up for that.
Murray signed for a couple of years. Joker signed for a couple of years. Aaron Gordon signed under contract.
They might lose Jeff Green or Bruce Brown. We'll see what happens there. Brown immediately after said, money's not everything to him and that he wants to stay. So we shall see. I still think that the one question mark. Well, I've had two question marks, and let me go on the record and say I still think some of my concerns about Jamal Murray are legit because Murray is a great player, but he's inconsistent. Now, he distributed the ball great, but I was literally sitting there watching this game 5, And I was my stomach felt the same way it did in June of 1994 when the Knicks were one game away from winning a championship and they couldn't fucking hit the side of a barn with a beach ball. And that's what the difference is that this team was able to dig themselves out and they had somebody like Jokic. This is the other thing is that through my lifetime of watching NBA finals, and I've watched every one, and I could probably remember back to at least, the late 70s. There's been only one other time where I have watched a big man dominate, a center dominate like this and really put his team on his back the way that Jokic did. And that was with Hakeem Olajuwon, especially in that first championship when they beat the Knicks. Now, look, that was a great battle. He was going up against Ewing. Both were kind of in their prime. I would say Olajuwon was a little towards the latter end of his prime. But that was the last time that I saw somebody other than Tim Duncan as a power forward, really dictate the game the way he did. It reminds me of, he reminded me in the way in which he impacts the game with Magic and Bird and other players that are not necessarily centers who can do more with the ball than he dictates how the Nuggets go. So much to the point where people who don't understand basketball are like, just let him score. And this way he doesn't, have 18 assists. The numbers he put up, a 30, basically averaging almost a 30-point triple-double or he did average a 30-point triple-double in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If there was anybody else, if Joel Embiid did that, we would not hear the end of it. We would not hear the end of it. Heck, if LeBron did it, or Jordan did it, or Kobe did it, or anybody else, we would not hear the end of it. And it was just as if, he wasn't very good tonight. He had 28 and 16 and 5.
Yeah,
come on.
And the one game that Miami did what you just said, I think they held him to like 6 assists, right? They put Adebayo and Kevin Love on him, right?
Right.
And they let him, and that was the one game they won. And then, to their credit, the Nuggets said, "Okay, well, we're going to figure out how that's not going to work for you anymore."
And they should have won that game. It should have been over in 4 because there was an out of bounds play, another foul call and a goaltending, which all went against the Nuggets' way and which swayed that game. So look, I'm not on the deep end like John with the refs, but every announcer, including Mark Jackson and Van Gundy, said they have to overturn this. There's no way this is a foul. And then they go right ahead and hold up the call. I mean,
but again, that was Miami's best chance to win something,
right? Through the refs,
right? And I think I don't know. I'm not going to say it was a decree that came down from on high, but I do believe that there is, there is like, hey, let's keep it close, right?
Or let's send it back to Miami, where we got more celebrities in the crowd and we can get another $4 or $5 million.
Right. We don't have to make sure necessarily Miami wins this one, but we gotta make it so they have a better chance.
Look, right? It is hard to close out a series. I remember watching the Celtics have a hard time doing it. Even the Bulls a couple times, it went to 6 or 7. The way this team handled themselves, I will say, hats off. And it was a team effort, and the role players knew their role and did it. And when the next man needed to step up, the next man needed to step up.
Agreed.
There was a lot of Scott Brociouses on this team. You know what I mean? There's a lot of Scott Brociouses.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, I know. Well, go ahead. I'm just going to bring up a stat. So you go first, Pete.
I was just going to say, this was not, I would imagine, not considered to be a great final by the NBA. And the Nuggets in general, and again, this is wrong, but I don't think they're considered by the NBA to be great for the playoffs. No game 6s, no game 7s, right? There's only, was it Phoenix that won 2 against them?
Yeah.
And that's with 2 of the best players on the planet. And you might be right. They're better off without Chris Paul than they are with him. But so this was a disaster from the standpoint of the NBA.
Yeah,
because
it was.
we all the Nuggets are a disaster in the playoffs. Great story, yes, first championship for them, but boy, it's all about money.
Right.
So we're gonna see if the thing is, and this is gonna be a dual-edged sword, I think, and then I'm gonna kick myself out and go inside. We're gonna see if players want to go to Denver and play with Jokic. That is something that could.
Well, they already have, and not necessarily.
Well,
big
but
names,
they got it. Well, if they go there, I talk cheap, and that could be a turning point for the NBA. The dual-edged sword for the Nuggets is though, can you fit those guys in?
Right.
And you're right. If you're going to get a big name that comes in, you got to come in and you got to fit in. And it's
we don't need big names. We need guys who know their role. So Aaron Gordon came here.
But I'm saying you might have big guys who want to go there, names that are going to go there, names that are going to get clicks, names that are going to get attention on the national stage, and make the league sit up and notice, and make a lot of fans sit up and notice. But can they fit in to what Denver does? And that's going to be, I think, the hard part for Denver to balance. How much more publicity do we want to get? Because I'm just going to say LeBron, not that he's going to go there, but when we get a big name, maybe who are they talking about? Maybe Damian Lillard, maybe Bradley Beal. Those guys actually might be good.
But they're not talking about them with the Nuggets. They're talking about them.
Well, no, I'm just talking about guys.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about guys who might be willing to leave. Guys who are like, okay, teams that might be willing to reset.
I get it.
And dump their star players, but it's going to be difficult for Denver to figure out who can we bring in, who's going to fit in, who do we want, how much do we want that publicity, how much do we want more of that national stage with those known names versus do we want to screw up the chemistry and what we're doing?
Right. Look, okay, and look, Jokic has been criticized for not performing in the playoffs, which is just ridiculous. Because granted, this stat, hold on, let me give you one stat. This stat is skewed by this current run, but in 67 playoff games, he's averaging 27.5 points, 12 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. He's a center.
He's a center. He's a center. I get it. Well, that's exactly where I was going to go with this. In these playoffs, he had 600 points. He had 269 rebounds, and he had 190 assists. He was first in all three of those categories. This is the first time in NBA history that there was a player that led in all three.
Yeah. And his averages were 30, 13.5, and 9.5. He's always a half assist away from a triple double.
Right.
But I mean, that's unbelievable.
It is.
I mean, the first part of that is the 30 and 14. Well, that's Hakeem, that's Shaq, that's Kareem in his prime, that's Duncan, maybe not even, but close.
Right.
And then the other part of it, the 13 and 9 is Magic, or maybe Chris Paul in his prime, or I mean, my point being is that no one has done that.
No.
Since Wilt Chamberlain.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody.
And on that note, you mentioned it before. Most seasons prior to their first title in the NBA, the Pistons were 40 seasons in before they won their first title.
Right.
The Cavs were 45 seasons in before they won their first title. The Nuggets are now 46, so this is their 47th season. Yeah.
47th season. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So what you have to remember is that there were seasons before that in the ABA, not a lot. So it's really the 50th plus anniversary of
right. As the actual NBA franchise, Denver.
The NBA,
right? But it's still regardless, it's still the most seasons prior to a first victory,
right?
So, but
yeah. Trust me, it's been a long time. And look, I know what it's like to suffer as a Knicks fan. I was alive during their first two championships, but I don't remember it because I was
right. We were young.
3. Yeah. Right. And look, I would say that I've been more invested in the Nuggets for the last 10 years than I have in the Knicks, only because I feel like the Knicks ownership and the makeup of the team is just, it's not as likable. I mean, I love the 90s Knicks. I love the 80s Knicks.
Right.
You know, this team, it's hard to sort of have the attachment to it, because this Nuggets team actually has a lot of the same attributes that those 90s Knicks teams did. Mm-hmm. They just have a better all-star player on their team and a better support staff.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100% that the I mean, I like the Knicks because they're the Knicks, right? But I definitely don't have that same attachment that I did in the 80s or the 90s. Absolutely not.
No. And look, I think this was a great playoffs. Obviously, I watched a lot of it because I love the NBA, and I thought it was actually a pretty interesting playoff. I love the Heat. I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan, and people are saying, "Oh, he didn't show up." No, he was great. He just he just lost to a better team and a better set of players. Mm-hmm. You know, the Nuggets. It wasn't like LeBron and AD were not playing their best ball. They were playing their best ball, and LeBron was the first person to admit, "No, we're watching something special. We're watching something special here." And look, I understand it's the Denver Nuggets. Not many people are really, you know, searching in on that. But I don't know. Was it any different when the Seattle Sonics were in the finals, or previous to that won the championship, or the Portland Trailblazers, or the Dallas Mavericks, or the San Antonio Spurs? I don't know why this team gets the disrespect that it does. And, you know, the only way to overcome that is to win championships. And we got one. And look, it's not going to be easy to get a second one. The second one's a lot harder than the first one. But I think this organization is committed to doing the right thing. And I think Stan Kroenke's focus might be on the Nuggets more than the Rams and some of the other teams that he holds right now, as far as making sure that, hey, it's kind of nice that we're able to do this. And maybe this team is built for the long haul a little bit more than what he did with the Rams or even the Avalanche more recently.
Or, I mean, don't forget the Mammoth, you know. So
yeah, well, yeah, whatever that is. What sport is that?
Yeah, that's
lacrosse?
the lacrosse league. Yeah.
Look, we talk about a lot of things on this program, and no disrespect to the lacrosse world. I'm not going to talk about lacrosse.
I'm just kidding, obviously. Yeah. It's not one of the four majors. It's not even.
That's it. His ownership of the Mammoth is called a tax write-off.
Right, pretty much. But yeah, no, he'll pay a little bit more attention to the Nuggets now. I think he's going to pay even less attention to the Rams this year because, you know, not that we'll get into NBA and NFL right now, but right. I don't think Stafford's shoulder is going to go back to what it was.
No,
and no. I don't. Yeah.
And sticking with the Nuggets, look, I was skeptical that they had enough. Were they another player away from being able to do it? And I'll give their front office credit. They did the one had to go out and get Drexler or whatever the case might be. I think the Nuggets do have to keep their foot on the gas pedal. Right. And they made a trade for draft picks during the finals.
Yeah.
So I think they understand that what the window is, and I'm happy to see that. Now, if he could just buy the Rockies, we'd be all right here in this town. But look,
well, I don't think you're gonna.
I've never experienced this. A team that I love has never won an NBA championship. So I mean, I became a fan of the Spurs, but that
you watched and knew what you were.
And where I could actually feel it, you know, going on around me. There was sitting in a bar near my house, an old school place, eating pizza and watching guys with Alex English and Dan Issel and Byron Beck jerseys on. It's in the grand scheme of life, it's ridiculous and meaningless.
Right.
But let me tell you something. It's a lot of fun.
There you go. All right. Shall we talk about a little hockey?
Yeah, well, we were, I think, all wrong, right? Didn't we all pick Florida?
We all picked Florida. Yes, we did. We all picked Florida.
Actually, I thought I picked. I thought I picked Las
Did you
Vegas.
pick Vegas? Yeah. I mean,
I go back and look, but I'll trust you.
Vegas scored more points in the last 2 games than the Giants, the New York Football Giants, averaged last year.
Yeah, they did.
They just turned it on. I mean, it was.
Well, you know what?
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Let me ask you guys this question. Which was the more exciting series? The NBA Finals or the NHL Finals?
Well, I think the NBA Finals for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's the NBA. Number two, there's a legacy here. 47 years of the Nuggets being in Denver. Actually, more than 47 years of the Nuggets being in Denver. How long has Vegas had a hockey team? How long has Vegas had hockey? And so I'm not diminishing the fans that are there, but I think proportionately it was probably a little smaller. I'm sure to the Vegas hockey fans it was just as exciting, but I think in the sports world, the Nuggets championship has more meaning, and especially because there was this forced narrative that went on before this. Nobody was talking about whether or not Vegas's goalie was, second best or whatever the case would be, or Kachuk was better than X, Y, or Z. But there was a lot of dialogue in the media about this this season in the NBA. And look, occasionally a team that is not predetermined wins. Not as often in the NBA, but occasionally they do. I think hockey fans are way more used to the unknown. And even though Vegas was a number 1 seed, am I correct in that?
Vegas was the number 1 seed. Yeah.
I mean, they were probably a number 1 seed that was not talked about very much, except maybe on the NHL network and in hockey circles. So I think they were the better team in the end. I thought Florida being on a heater was going to kind of carry them through, but again, definitively, Vegas a much better team. And look, this might be one of the more clear-cut championships in hockey. What was Vegas's record in the postseason? It was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Pete's looking at it.
So, I mean, I didn't watch as much of this, but
I watched more of the basketball finals than I did the NHL finals, the Stanley Cup finals.
So I mean, this is their 6th season,
right?
And it's it's impressive, and I think that's great, but I don't think it registers as much on the national radar.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I will say this though.
All right, so let's see.
Kolasar on Vegas racked up a very impressive 50 minutes of penalty time in the postseason.
Yeah, sure.
So 2018, 2019.
It's almost half of Crosby's.
That's right.
Their first season.
Yeah, it's their 6th season. Yep.
6th season.
They lost in the first round to the Sharks. 2019-21, they lost in the conference finals to the Stars.
Yeah, I remember that.
2021, they lost in the semifinals to the Canadiens. Then last year, they did not make the playoffs, and so in their 6th season, they are Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah.
And on that note, I was going to say it's the 4th true expansion team to win a title, the fastest across all 4 major sports. They're the 4th fastest in the 6th season. The Florida Marlins, the 97 Florida Marlins, won it in their 5th season, won the World Series in their 5th season. The 2001 Diamondbacks, as much as it pains me to bring this up to Harry, won the World Series in their 4th season.
Yeah, that one I remember.
Yeah, and the
single.
And the 1971 Milwaukee Bucks won it in their 3rd season. They did it the fastest.
Yeah.
So they had first season, they had
43 wins.
They won 51 games
30.
this year.
Mm-hmm.
They were 39-24-8, first in the Pacific in 2019-2020, and lost in the conference finals. And they had 51 victories this season in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, they've gone from 39 wins to 51 wins in 4 seasons. That's a pretty dramatic improvement. And
but they've been consistent. Their win total year by year, 43, 39, 40, 43, and then 51. So a third, a first, a second, a fourth, and a first. So
they're a good team, and they probably and they were 9-3 in these playoffs. So I mean that's pretty impressive. So
which ironically was their.
I'm sorry, they were 9-3. They were 9-3 at home.
They were 9-3 at home, which is ironically was the score of the game,
the final game.
Final game. So
it's
so the grade 8s were not so great in the finals.
No, they were not.
I'm just saying from a television standpoint,
they both won. They both won one game in their respective finals.
Both finals were kind of a dud because they only went 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
So again, they won 2-1 in the series. Then they won 3-1. Or again, 2-1 against Edmonton. What 3-1 against? And I'm trying to see what their series splits was. I don't know why it's only showing me home games.
Those are only I was going to say that those are home games. Yeah.
I don't know why that's the case. Anyway, they were pretty dominant. And,
they were dominant, definitely dominant.
Yeah.
They were
well, good for them. Congratulations. They were obviously the best team. So
they were. On that note, on a hockey note, a local. I know neither of you are necessarily Rangers fans by any means, but the Rangers announced their new head coach.
Peter
Laviolette.
700 years old and
700 wins, not 700 years old. No.
Oh, okay.
Hey, look, he won a cup with the Hurricanes. He got the Flyers. He got the Flyers and the Predators to the cup. They didn't win, but they got him to the cup. He's the winningest American-born head coach in NHL history. So I think he's got a good 2, 3, maybe 4-year window with the Rangers to get him to a cup. I think he can.
Mm-hmm.
I think you definitely get him back there, whether they win one or not. But I think this was a great move. I think this was a good pickup. I think he was the right choice, and we'll see what he can do. I'm cautiously optimistic about it. And
what did he do in Washington though that got him booted out? Were they just not good enough?
You know what? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Let me see if we can do that here. On that note though, he did in his playing career back in the day. He did play 12 NHL games. He was in the minors. He floated around the minors for like 12 seasons, but he played in 12 NHL games, all with the Rangers. So there you go. There's that. He's coming home to win a couple cups and then retire off into the sunset, so to speak. But
the Caps just weren't good.
That would be nice. No, the Caps were
35, 37, and
he tried to turn him around, but didn't work.
I mean, he was there when they won their cup, right?
No.
Okay.
No. He only won a cup with the Hurricanes. That was it. He got the Flyers and he got the the Predators.
So they brought him in. He couldn't keep the momentum going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
thank you.
Next, he's sort of hockey's Buck Showalter to me.
Yeah. Well, at least he's won a cup. So.
He has a championship. But and I don't mean that as a what I mean is that I feel like he's always brought in to try and do something that somebody before him could not do.
Well, you know what? I mean, here's the thing. He coaches inspired play. I mean, that's like his I mean, better than a lot of other people. All right.
Vodka and hookers. Is that what he brings?
Inspired,
whatever works, man.
Potato,
works.
right? Yeah. But the bottom line is, if they had someone to inspire the play, I think the Rangers would have did a little bit more than they did this year, and that's probably pretty much the reason why Gerard Gallant is not there anymore. So, but there you go. Let's see what he does. See what he does. But anyway,
right.
they announced it just yesterday. So it's fresh news.
I think it's a good hire.
I think it's a good hire too.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move to really quick to football? I got one quick thing in football. I know it's not quite football. We should be chatting about football or anything yet, but I got one quick thing I want to bring up to you. Obviously,
it wouldn't be this show if we didn't talk about an off-season sport.
Well, it's something that I want your opinion on. Okay,
just some obscure backup tight end thing for the.
Pretty much. No, it's something that I want to bring up.
Go for it.
And I want your opinion on it. Obviously, the whole Saquon Barkley thing local in New York, right? Him holding out, not signing the tender.
It's making some national. It's making national headlines too.
Okay, so now I personally think that a deal will get done. Something will get done. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere because he's not going anywhere because nobody's going to give him what he wants. He'll get a little bit bump. They'll come to an agreement. Everything will be fine. He's staying on the Giants. But that brings me to this point. Right now, there are 4 notable free agent running backs in the NFL.
Yeah.
All right.
All good too.
Dalvin Cook, Zeke Elliott, Leonard Fournette, and Kareem Hunt. They all don't have a team, and they're all fairly young. They're not old over the hill. I mean, in running back terms, Kareem Hunt's the oldest. I know.
Kareem Hunt and Zeke have not had
fair enough.
The workload that they have had in the past over the last few years. I think those two guys are maybe less number 1 backs, but would be great number 2 backs.
They'd be great number 2 backs, right? Absolutely. Leonard Fournette I think he still has decent gas in the tank to be a number 1 back. And Dalvin Cook is one of the best rushers in the league.
Yeah, he might be the best.
He's a cap casualty. That's all Dalvin Cook is. Otherwise, he'd still be on Minnesota. But that brings me to this. Okay. This was a take. This was on Good Morning Football this morning, and I'm reusing it because I want your opinion on it. Their list is don't pay running backs take list. Okay, number 1, they get hurt too often. Number 2, they lose their value every single season. Number 3, they're less important in today's game. Number 4, you can get a cheap free agent, and number 5, you can get a running back late in the draft. Now, what of those do you agree with? Do you agree with all of them? Do you think that the running back position is it is what it is? It's been devalued. It'll never be what it used to be. Where do we stand? What's your opinion? That's where I'm going with this. Somebody, one of you.
Can you read the list again?
I'll go number 1, they get hurt too often. True or false?
I mean, I'd say less true.
Less true than false.
Less true than false.
Okay, number 2.
That's all. That's all players.
It's all players. Yes, but
I think the subtext of that is that their lifespan in the NFL is not as long as it used to be. They have a short lifespan. Mm-hmm. You should never re-sign a running back after their rookie contract,
which sucks for them. Why? But here's the thing. But think about it though. A running back is and. All right, let me jump to this now. I'll touch on those again in a minute, Pete. But because you said that before I forget, let me jump on this now. If the running back position has been devalued that much, and they're not as important as they used to be in today's game, and people don't re-sign running backs after their rookie contract, what is going to possess somebody not necessarily in high school necessarily or lower, but what's going to possess somebody to want to be a running back in college? If they're really headed for the NFL, why would they even bother doing that if they know that they got 5 years in the league and they're done?
Well,
it's not like they're not making money. Also,
I understand it, but other positions are making, obviously lesser positions. Obviously,
because
a running back in 5 years is going to make more money than a punter in 10 years. I get
it. Because if you're a running back, odds are you're never going to be a wide receiver. So you can stretch yourself and out on a plank and turn yourself into an offensive lineman and make even less money, or you can become a tight end and make less money. So that argument falls a little short. Why are there going to be running backs? Because some people are just running backs. And I'll tell you this, running backs are still incredibly valuable in college. So you will get a better chance to be drafted, even if it might not be as high as it used to be in the draft.
Right.
Also, you have to look at the physical nature of a person. Some guys are built like running backs, right?
That's exactly what I just said. Yeah. I just didn't say it.
Well,
okay.
I agree. Both you're both right. All right, but yeah, no. I mean, obviously, somebody that's Joe Morris, right? Shorter running back. Obviously,
they were all built like
there's
that.
not a lot of other positions. Yeah, exactly, right. A short, but somebody that's a tall, like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry can be a tight end. He could probably be a beast of a tight end. Yeah,
Derrick Henry got paid, so
right. I'm just saying his physicality, his structure, his and everything, that kind of a thing.
Go ahead and finish your diatribe, and then I'll answer your question.
The other one was they lose their value every single season. Do we agree with that? Lose more and more each season.
So you're
not initially, but after 4 or 5 years, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. 3, they're less important in today's game.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's already been true.
Mm-hmm.
Been true for a
few years at least.
Certainly wasn't true for the Giants last year.
However, I wouldn't say that is also becoming more true as years go by.
Sure, gotcha.
Okay, let me go over one stat here. Okay, here's the leading rushers from last year. Josh Jacobs. What did his team do? Nothing.
Josh Jacobs, they did nothing.
Derrick Henry
didn't make the playoffs. No.
Now, Derrick Henry is very important to that team making the playoffs year after year, but they can't get over the hurdle, and they're just not very good.
Right.
Nick Chubb, nothing. Saquon Barkley, most important piece of the Giants' offense, but when it comes down to the playoffs, or really. Okay.
They were going up. I mean, the game that they lost, they were going up against the team that had multiple running.
Okay.
And the Giants did too, but they had no weapons downfield as the Eagles did. So
that proves our point that passing is more important, or at least a balanced attack.
It's balanced. Yeah.
Miles Sanders had 1,269 rushing yards. Okay. I would say a very important piece of that offense and much more of a multi-purpose back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right? Would you agree with that?
A multi-purpose back, right? Much as much as an important multi-purpose back. I'm saying as Barkley.
And as far as a team and rushing, he was also on a team that had an incredible rushing quarterback,
of course,
which changes things. Okay, so then here's the rest of it. Dalvin Cook. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So those are your top 6 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now at number 7, we have a quarterback. Okay. Then we have Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, Justin Fields. Okay. Again, so a team that didn't do anything. Christian McCaffrey helped the 49ers, but the 49ers didn't make it to the Super Bowl or to the NFC Championship game.
That's because at one point Christian McCaffrey was the quarterback. But that's besides the point.
Again, it just proves that having a quarterback and receivers are more important. Okay. Travis Etienne, okay, not really. Okay. Aaron Jones on a sinking ship. Jamal Williams, a team that had a better year, but nothing in the – so – we're going down the list now, and now we're getting into the teams that Isaiah Pacheco, okay, was the leading rusher for the Super Bowl champions. He had 830 yards rushing, which is good.
Okay, all right, wait, before you go any further, read the list of quarterbacks for those teams.
For which
starting
teams?
with the leading rusher. Number 2,
right,
number 3.
Josh Jacobs played for the Raiders. So for most of the season, their quarterback was Derek Carr.
Right.
Okay.
Who Derrick Henry. Okay. He plays for the Titans. I believe. Was he hurt? When did what's his name get hurt?
Most of the season he was out.
So who was their
They had a
primary
rookie. They had a
quarterback.
rookie in there, and then they picked somebody else up. I forget honestly.
So,
who it
so
was,
it wasn't even the guy that gets into the playoffs.
They
Maybe
had to. No, what I'm saying is
Tannehill was hurt most of the season. So
most of these running backs have high rushing yards because they have quarterbacks that suck.
Right.
And okay, so now Miles Sanders is an obvious exception. I mean, kind of. I don't know. Saquon Barkley, mediocre, but not really. Again, these are all rushing-based offenses. I would say Dalvin Cook was the only one that put up big numbers in an offense that had a balanced attack. Right? Kirk Cousins and I mean those guys did put up numbers. Justin Fields was everything for the Bears. I mean, there was games when it was like Justin Fields.
Yeah,
it was like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, the Bears are kind of an anomaly there.
Yeah. So my point being is that the good teams do not rush the ball as much. This is proof. I'm going down the list here. All of these teams did not get close to winning a Super Bowl.
Right, but they don't rush the ball as much because
they're smart, and that's where the NFL is.
Because they have better weapons.
Right, they have better weapons.
Potato, yes.
The best out of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Out of the top 10 rushers in last year's NFL. All right. The one that got the furthest was Christian McCaffrey. The one that got the second furthest was Saquon Barkley with the Giants.
I know. Okay.
Yeah.
And McCaffrey though,
and the Giants have no weapons. So
and McCaffrey was not playing the same role that he was in
Carolina. He was more of a role player.
Right? He was a role player. He wasn't carrying the ball, 330 times because he just couldn't, So the running back is devalued, but obviously we see the running back having more value on a team where the quarterback sucks or is
but
not
it's like
good.
It's like saying it's the equivalent of saying, you know what, we're not going to have any pitchers, but we're going to have a bunch of really good first basemen. Okay, we're going to load our team up with the first baseman. They're going to be in the top 10 in hitters for first baseman in the league, but we're going to lose every fucking game because my point being, and I don't like
so wait, you just described the Mets.
I guess that's in the Yankees, and a lot of other teams. So I don't like this because I love the running game. Some of my favorite players of all time in the NFL have been running backs. I'm not saying that a running back is not important, but I think everything that John said with some caveats in there is true. I don't think you win in today's NFL. You don't have to have an elite running back. Okay. You have to have a balanced offense and a good quarterback or a great quarterback and
a solid, serviceable running attack.
Right. And I also think that running backs that can lead in total yardage, meaning passing and rushing, are more important now than they have been. So,
teams used to use the run to set up the pass. You wanted a successful running game so that the other team couldn't stack the line, right? Stack the box, because if you stack the box, you can stop anybody, even Derrick Henry, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you ran the ball and you want to run successfully so that you could open things up. You'd bring those guys up and then you'd be able to open up the passing game. I think it's kind of the opposite right now. You put up good passing numbers and you got to drop those linebackers back into coverage, right? You're dropping into more zone coverage and those sort of things. And you still, it's not enough to feature the running back, but you still need one. They're still necessary. But
you get a wide receiver who can run the ball. Like
you do that too.
That's where it's going. Yeah, you still need a running back. Of course you do. It's somewhat equivalent to what people have been believing for years in the NBA, in that you don't need a great center to win championships, and that's been proven. Okay, but that's mostly because there's not a lot of great centers. I mean, that was not the case with Ewing and Mourning and Olajuwon and the 90s era of David Robinson and and all of those centers, or the 80s with Kareem and, et cetera, and Robert Parrish and Bill Walton and a lot of those teams. So that was more of a reacting to the talent at hand. Yeah. This is just where the game has gone. It's a winning formula. Yeah. Now, there can be teams, and we see these teams. I think the Giants are one of them. Tennessee has consistently been one of them. I think in years past, Dallas has been one of them, where you can have a great running game, and it can get you 10, 11, 12 wins in a season. But it seems as if stopping the running game in the postseason and not being able to play a high-scoring, game, unless you have a really great defense. I think the last team to not necessarily have a great offense that relied a little bit more on the running game and a great defense was the Patriots. But when was the last time, they won a championship?
5 years ago.
So that was the last time that I saw that occur. Yeah. So now they still had some offensive weapons in the air. They still had maybe the best quarterback in the history of the game. So that skews things a little bit. They were able to win those close games because they had a great defense. I'm not saying the running back is not important, but if you were to say, hey, look, the option is the Giants could go get one of the top. So let's assume Saquon Barkley is the top 5 running back in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just, for argument's sake, I would say he probably is.
Well, he is, yeah.
Yeah. By numbers, okay.
By numbers, he is.
Okay, so if
numbers right now. Yeah.
If I gave you John, GM of the Giants, for a day, okay, something that said you sign Saquon Barkley, or you can have one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL right now, but you have to get rid of Barkley and fill his gap in with somebody else. What would you take?
I have the team I have right now. And my other choices are, so it's the exact same team I have right now, and I get Barkley or one of the top 5 receivers in the league. Honestly, I'm keeping Barkley.
Oh God, why?
Because I have Daniel Jones as my quarterback.
But you were the one all year saying that he's only bad because he doesn't have weapons.
Well,
I also think he does. Look, here's the other.
He has a couple of weapons, and he also did just get the best tight end in the NFC East, if not more.
Right. If not, here's the other thing that a good running back does is it allows you to not expose your quarterback. Mm-hmm. So most of the teams, there's not really one great team on here that has a top running back and a great quarterback. There's no team with a top 10 running back and a top 10 quarterback. Maybe Minnesota. Maybe you could make that argument. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Well, not anymore.
Yeah. Well, but what I'm saying, in the past years.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly why I would hold on to Saquon Barkley, because the Giants. What do they have right now? They got Matt Breida. He's not gonna help not expose Daniel Jones more.
All right.
I think the money that they're gonna pay Barkley is not worth it. But that's my take. I think all of this is true. I agree with you. I think the Giants are going to re-sign Saquon Barkley. I think the Giants are going to be mediocre again. And in 2 or 3 years, Barkley will be done, and the Giants won't have a championship. We'll but that's okay. That's the Giants. That's the Giants. That's what we love to do. Let's hold on to our players and talk ourselves into believing it's going to be great.
Well, look, obviously, I can tell you right now, Joe Shane's plan was to keep Barkley for a year. Like, he wanted to give him that smaller contract. He said no. The smaller contract would have worked for them under the cap. It would have been fine going forward. That's all good. But if he wants more than that, he didn't want to give it to him. He's got to give him for 1 year, and then he could keep doing it every year, or he could let him walk and then draft another or pick up another running back. In this market, obviously, they're going to be able to get any running backs. Like, you could go pick up a Kareem Hunt, I just think now for next year,
Frank Gore's got to be
Frank Gore's only 49.
I think Ryan Terrain is available.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's got fresh legs too.
I heard Joe Morris wants to come out of retirement too. So
he's got new legs.
Yeah. All right. Well, at least we didn't spend a lot of time on football with this.
That's it. So that's it. That's all I want to talk. All right. We'll just put the baseball. We're not talking any baseball. Just put that background up. We want to bring up tennis before we go.
Well, or should we talk about this in the next one when we do our top
Want to
five?
talk about it next week?
Yeah, maybe next week. I will say this. Congratulations to the other
Well,
Serbian superstar.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we were just gonna mention that, right? Okay. And then we're gonna discuss it next week with the top five that we're doing next week. Right. So, let's give congrats where they're due.
Yeah, Novak Djokovic. I mean, winning his 23rd, grand major title. Look, this is big. This is big news, and I don't think people realize that maybe these last 10 years or so, we've been watching maybe the golden age of men's tennis and women's tennis with Serena.
Another golden age.
Another golden age. I'd
say we're very fortunate. We get to watch another golden age. Yeah.
Right. My point being is that we have, Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, who are all, neck and neck with 23, 22, 22, correct? Am I right in that? Or 23, 22, 21? I can't remember what it was.
23, 22, 21, yeah.
Yeah, which is just unbelievable. They're far ahead of anybody else in that area. And of course, Federer is retired. Nadal, we don't know. He'll probably be back because I think you just have to shoot him for him to not be on the court. And Djokovic, who's as old as those guys, but seems younger in some weird way. Obviously, he's in his late 30s, so his career. It's just weird to see tennis players playing to this advanced age, and again, he might not be as lovable or as cute as Federer or whatever all the girls love Nadal, but watching this guy play, he's spectacular.
He's very good.
He's spectacular.
He is now the only man in the history of the game to win each of the Grand Slam titles at least 3 times each.
And that was my point that I think separates him. And I will say this: the competition he's had to go through is maybe the best. Now, I will say you got McEnroe and Connors and Bjorg. They were playing each other for a while. McEnroe and Connors obviously had a much longer career than Bjorn Borg.
Don't forget Bobby Riggs.
Well, before that, obviously you had Rod Laver, and then you had the Sampras years, which he's kind of the bridge in there, and he's certainly on my list of
Pete Sampras is the bridge. Yeah.
Pete Sampras is the bridge. But look, the competition that Novak Djokovic has to have won these against, I don't think you can argue that it's the hardest. I mean, you could say the same thing for Federer and Nadal too. These 3 guys battling each other for all these years, and the fact that they've still been able to rack up these wins. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll talk about it next week when we talk about where we rank these guys. Mm-hmm. But those guys might be the 3 best ever.
Yeah, I agree. I think they are. Let's talk about it next week. Let's do that.
Let's talk about it next week.
All right. Teaser for next week, folks. We will be discussing that in our top 5 that we do next week.
We're going to break out and do a little tennis. I don't think we've ever talked tennis before, have we? Other than Serena, maybe.
A little bit of Serena. Yeah, we've talked about Serena before. We talked tennis a little bit, but all right. I know we got a. Are they for real? So let's get it going.
What is real?
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Pretty sure none of that's real.
You're not real.
For real, for real, for real. Yeah.
Are you for real? For real? For real? For real?
Are they for real?
What is real?
All right. So as you know, on this program, Are They For Real? All depends on the context, right? Sometimes it's, are they for real? Are they really that good? Sometimes it's, are they for real? Are they really that bad?
Right.
Sometimes it's something else. Well, we have sort of a new one here, and it involves Harry's favorite NBA team, or at least the one he jumped on the bandwagon for, the Nuggets.
Yeah. 30 years ago, I jumped on the bandwagon.
So here's the context for the Nuggets. For Are They For Real? Because I've been thinking about, with these young players and young stars they have locked up for the next couple of years. We're going to look at, are they for real? We're going to assume that they're going to win at least one more championship.
No,
so
that's a great assumption.
I think it's a reasonable assumption.
Okay. I
So
agree.
are they maybe going to win? Are they for real in the sense that they're going to win one next year? Or maybe the year after that? Or are they, because they're well run as an organization, are they for real in the sense that they might be like the Spurs? They might win 3 or 4, but it might take them 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 years. Can they sustain it that long? So take your pick. What are they more for real or more likely to do? Win one in the next couple of years, or maybe a couple in the next couple of years, or have maybe a couple of wins stretched out over, let's say, the next 5 or 6 years.
Who's going first?
Let's get John's opinion here.
I think they're going to win another 2 over the next 4 years. That's what I think.
So they're gonna win more quickly.
They're going to win. They're going to win a couple more quickly than they're going to do, like 2 and 4 as opposed to 3 or 4 in 9
like
or 10.
More like a Miami Heat than a San Antonio Spurs.
Right. Fair enough.
Okay.
Right.
Harry,
I think they've got 5 years to do it. And if they win 2 in the next 5 years, I think it'll be amazing. Here's the difference between them and the Spurs. The Spurs had 2 Hall of Fame greats in the top 100 players, top 50 players of all time. One on his way out, one on his way in. So as Robinson was going out, Robinson needed Duncan to win a championship. You know, he won it. Kind of.
how many years were they together?
3, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
3 or 4.
Really?
Yeah. So, but Duncan was so young. My point being is that the Nuggets version of Duncan is Jokic, and Duncan was younger than him by 3 or 4 years at the time of their first championship. So
but the Spurs also brought in players who became Hall of Famers.
They did, but if Jokic had this team 2 years ago, healthy, I think they would have had a chance. So say this year was their second championship, then I would agree with you that they might be able to pull off a greater run. But because they're young, but they're not that young.
Yeah.
And I think it's harder to keep teams together for as long these days. I think they've got 4 or 5 years. Now, I hope it's more. But in 4 years, Jokic is going to be 32. Okay? I think that was how old Hakeem was when he won his last one. So I think, and now, granted, stranger things can happen. They could get some young players in here. Maybe Jokic becomes more of a Kareem to somebody else that comes in here and can play till he's 39 or 40 and win something. I'd love to see that be the case. But I think in just the way in which the NBA works today, I think they've got a 5-year window. And look, if they can get 2 more championships in 5 years, that's amazing. You know.
All right, so we'll call that dynamic. And winning a few over a longer stretch of time, we'll call that dynastic. How about that? So you guys think they're more dynamic than dynastic.
What constitutes a dynasty? 4? Is 3 a dynasty? You know, how?
Yeah. I
think 4 is the number.
I think 3 with relevance over a good 5-6 years is a dynasty.
Okay.
Like that's the what is the minimum period of time that you need for a dynasty? Like can you say, well, look at these 6 years, right? If a team wins 4 out of 6 years, that's kind of a dynasty.
In today's sports in general, with free agency and everything else, especially NBA, with I want out, I want to go there, I want to go there.
Right.
6 years is definitely a dynasty.
Right. But if you win that same 4 over 10 years,
I don't think that's as much of a dynasty, to be honest with you.
Not as much,
but maybe. Yeah.
I think relevance over 6 years, winning 3 championships, that's definitely a dynasty. That's where I'm at.
I tend to think they're more dynamic too. I think you're right. I think they've got, I would say, a 3 or 4 year window. And I think if they win one more over the next 3 years, they're not a dynasty, but that would certainly cement, that would give them
their place,
street cred and
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
Because look, the number of, and look, I'm putting this more in the context of Jokic. The number of big men who have won more than two, it's a small group. It's a small elite group, and none of them have done it. None of them really have done it being the number one option on a team.
Right.
You could sort of argue Bill Russell. That's like apples and fruitcake. It's so hard to compare what now, the more recent dynasties. I mean, the Bulls was an obviously one. 6 championships in 7 years, 8 years, 8 years,
Right.
7 years, 6 and 7 years. But they never made it to the finals before that. So Jordan and the Bulls, even with Pippen, were around for a while until they made it to the NBA finals.
Yeah,
so,
7 years before they got
their first I mean, if you look at Shaq made it to the finals and lost to Hakeem, and it was favored to win that championship. It was Hakeem and Clyde Drexler with no hair left and a 2-inch vertical. So Shaq won with Kobe and Dwayne Wade. Shaq didn't win with Penny and anybody else. So I'm looking at it really. The only guy that I think ever carried a team on his back to a championship was Hakeem Olajuwon. And
unfortunately,
I think, and that one of those guys was going to get that designation in 94.
Absolutely.
But I do think that Jokic has more help, at least with the first championship, than Hakeem did. The second one could be argued to be pretty close. I'm not saying that it's just Jokic, but he is clearly the most important player on this team. And so if he could win 3 as a center, it starts to change the dynamic of where he is in the conversation of things. And I think that there's other people now with 1, or people vying for that 1, which is going to make the next 3, 4, 5 years in the NBA really interesting.
It is.
And that's Giannis. Obviously Dallas is going to be in the equation. We know the Embiid Sixers discussion they're going to continue to be good. Will the Celtics bounce back? Who knows what the Lakers are going to do to get as many players as they need on that team. The Suns are going to load up. So people are going to load up. They might not load up in the way the Nuggets have, which is more of role players and being a complete team. I don't think they really have the ability to do that because they're limited. But that all of those teams that I just mentioned are going to be better. And if they're healthy, it's going to challenge. It's going to be a challenge. But let's see what they do in the offseason. Let's see who they're able to hold. And let's see if they don't have a hangover. It's hard to repeat. So you might have to write off next year just knowing that it's really hard to win back-to-back championships.
All right. Dynamic Denver Nuggets.
There you go. All righty. All right. Well, on that note, I think we're good. What do you think?
Yeah, why not?
I agree. Why not? All right. Well, remember next week we'll definitely be talking that whole tennis thing, that whole
pickleball and tennis.
Pickleball and tennis. That's what we'll be talking about on next week's show. Now, stay tuned for next week's show. Next week, it's going to be a good one. Got some good quizzes and some nice tennis talk. So, anyway, good week. Good 2 championships to talk about this week. So basketball and hockey are done. Now we get to talk about baseball. That's coming up on the All-Star break soon, and football camp. That's basically what we'll be talking about over the next couple months. So look forward to that. But on that note, we will wrap up the show for today. We want to thank everybody for watching, and for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And of course, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcast, and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And we will talk to you soon, folks. Take care. Cheers.
Nuggets.
Bye, everybody.